Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to another episode of Trudge Report. This is a recovery-based podcast, but don't worry. If you're not sober or currently missing in action like Corey, or you're not ready to be sober, we talk about plenty of other things, including sports, trending topics, and a good bit of nonsense. My name is Sean, and I'm your host. I'm joined by my good friends and fellow trudgers. Please remember to listen on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Our videos will still be posted each week, so you can watch episodes on YouTube and Facebook. But as always, please be sure to download on your listening platforms. Remember to like and subscribe on all social media outlets with the handle @TrudgeReportPod. We are brought to you by Stella Mix Podcast Management and our wonderful producer and editor, Miss Janine Stella. Gentlemen, good evening. It is just the Trudge trio tonight. Corey is I think he's in Disney. I think that's what he said. He's in Disney with the family. Hopefully he's having a great time. Hopefully he hasn't yelled at any other little kids, his kids or other kids.
Highly doubtful.
Nobody deserves that.
Hopefully they let his short ass on Space Mountain.
Hopefully they let his short ass on Space Mountain. And
your hands must be this big to ride the ride.
Yeah, little hands.
Goofy's clowning him right now with the hands and hand to hand.
Guys, let's go real quick. How was Easter? Happy Easter Monday. Greg, how was your Easter?
It was great, man. Really good weekend. We had Saturday. We had little man's football game, and then Easter Sunday was great, man. I ate like a horse. We made some flatbreads for her family's party. So they always throw a big party. It's like a potluck style. So I tried my hand at some flatbreads, and
Nice.
I'm pleased to say they turned out very nice. I had an assortment of different ones, but my personal favorite was the fig, goat cheese, and bacon with a little honey drizzle
good
on
combo.
there. It was
That is
banging.
good.
So but
That's
great
bougie,
time.
Greg.
Yeah,
Bougie.
it was her idea. She wanted to show him up, so that's what we were gonna do.
5-star palette right there.
Yeah, we were, bam. So it turned out really good. Always a good time going over to her family's house for Thanksgiving, man, or Thanksgiving, any holiday, Easter, whatever. Because it's always just good times, good laughs, and great food. So
Nice. Bill, what about you? What'd you guys do? You had Avia this weekend, didn't you?
I did. It was fantastic. First of all, I think Easter is the most underrated holiday. It's the most important to me as a Christian. And, it would definitely, I felt the vibes of God, most importantly this weekend. I think I had a strong connection with him, and so did my daughter, who seems to have a stronger one than I do, which is pretty good because I admire my own, I think, compared to what it used to be. Because she's, I got her this prayer jar, and it has the emotions on the front of the jar of sad, happy, this and that. And every morning she comes down, she wants to pull out the emotions and read so the correlating emotion you pull it's a color in the jar. So if you're sad or whatever, it might be blue, and it'll be something from the Bible that has a little bit of a message for that. So that's been a real treat doing that with her, and having her tell me that she talks to God every day like she did today. That's pretty cool, because that's all I can ask for as a parent, honestly. And we went to church Sunday morning. That was great, just her and I. And then we went out to eat at this nice place downtown Stewart, but it was absolutely terrible. And then we went to my friend's farm, and they did it up, man. They had stone crab, they had crab cake, they had the whole thing, steaks, everything. So we had a great time. Did an Easter egg hunt. No one got injured on the trampoline. It was a good time.
It's always a plus.
I think Easter is very slept on holiday, and we should get days off for it.
I would agree with you. Well, the kids did. The kids got Friday and Monday off, but
No, the workers.
I know.
yeah,
I would agree with you. I've always thought this, even as a little kid growing up Catholic, like Christmas, all Jesus did was be born on Christmas. He didn't really do anything. And on Easter, the MFer rises from the dead. Like that's pretty spectacular. We're kind of we're kind of like burying the lead here. I agree with you, Bill. Easter is very underrated.
May I say one more thing too? Is actually that you just reminded me was I took her Friday night to see King of Kings.
Oh yeah,
animated movie about the story of Jesus. I mean,
yeah, how was it?
Fantastic. Like anybody could watch it. Any denomination or whatever could watch that.
Nice.
I mean, at the end of it, it's an animation. I was like welling up. It was fantastic. King of Kings in theaters.
Nice.
Very good.
Very good. Yeah, I had the same here. I just did a bunch of family stuff. We were at my family's house. You know, my wife got out of work early enough to come, which she doesn't always for these holidays. So that was a plus. And a lot of
Nice.
my family hadn't seen her since we announced that she was pregnant. So that was pretty cool. The girls had a blast there with all their cousins. That's honestly my favorite part of not just Easter, but the holidays is watching the kids all run around with their cousins and just like have a blast. You know what I mean? And from young to old, just kind of the whole way. We had some golf on the TV, some basketball, good food, and just kind of being together. You know, my dad's side of the family, a lot of them are here locally. They always are. They're always doing something. You know, whether it's just a regular Sunday dinner or holidays and stuff. So shout out to them. I enjoy it. My mom came, of course, and I have so many desserts right now, guys. Dude, I have like Bill from Phil's house Saturday where we were. I took a bunch of desserts home from there, and then I just got. Like I have literally my entire stove is just covered in desserts. And then my buddy Vinny brought me some Italian pastries last night. I got it from my cousin's house yesterday. My aunt in New Hampshire sent some Easter bread, which she does every year. I have so many desserts, dude. And like I try not to keep that many desserts in the house because I will eat them. And I don't know. I just ate so much food yesterday and even Saturday night and stuff like that. But got desserts for days, so we're doing good over here in the McDonald household.
You earned it.
We're doing good. The kids did. The kids, I had to cut the kids off. I was like, no more candy today. No, not for a few days. They had so much candy and sweets and desserts from Saturday to yesterday, like just all kinds of stuff. They love Easter too. So,
Bro, it was. Let me tell you, like we kept little man up a little bit later than usual because WrestleMania was on and whatnot. So a little bit later than usual on Saturday night, and you know, then it came time for the Easter Bunny to show up and spread his magic all over the place. And I think that wrapped up about 2 a.m. And he's a sleeper, man. He'll conk out. Like, so we figured for sure, you know, if he goes to bed at 11, we're good, right? Nope. 6:45 a.m. Sunday morning. And he was
kids don't sleep in.
Dude, and he like before we ever even got out of bed, he had found everything. Both of his Easter baskets, all the eggs, he'd gone outside, put his shoes on, gone outside, found them all, and he's literally just bringing one thing into the bedroom at the time. Like, look at this Minecraft book I got. Leaves the bedroom, comes back in. Look at this huge this huge chocolate egg, and like just so there's just this procession of things in and out of the room. It was It was a fun Sunday morning.
Yeah, Easter's a fun one. Easter's underrated for the kids too. We get an Easter basket and some stuff. Easter egg hunt.
I didn't distribute her one piece of candy, and she didn't complain once. So that was a win in my book. That was my goal.
Wow.
Yeah. No candy.
There you go. And don't bring it up. Don't put it in their face. Don't bring it up. They'll be all right.
She never said nothing. She didn't wake me up either. She I don't know what I was like, okay. So whatever.
Very good. Well, guys, I got a couple quick little topics I want to touch on, and then we're as promised in the previous months, we're trying to do one kind of deep dive research topic a month. So tonight we're doing the dire wolf, DIRE, the dire wolf. We'll explain exactly what that is, because if you're like me, last Tuesday when Bill and Greg were talking about it in our group thread, I had no idea what it was, but it should be a very interesting one. And then a couple quick things, guys. Shout out to Pope Francis. The Pope passed away yesterday, which at first I thought he died on Easter, which I thought would be like kind of cool in a way, or, you know, like kind of maybe creepy. I'm not really sure, but shout out to Pope Francis. You know, I think, I don't know, it deserves a mention, I think. Deserves a mention, you know, man who served God all his life. First Latino Pope too, which I thought was pretty wild. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And he had to come into a pretty rough scene, so I think he handled it pretty admirably.
Yeah, Pope Francis. I just wanted to shout that out. Nothing really to talk about there. I did have something, guys, and this will be a good one for us to talk on for a few minutes. And there was a guy, I was reading an article. There was a guy who was awarded $50 million in Los Angeles for getting hot tea spilled on him from Starbucks. It was a case from February 2020, and the trial and all the proceedings took this long. And just recently, they awarded the man $50 million. Apparently he had like some severe.
Where did this occur? I'm sorry.
The incident occurred February of 2020.
No, where?
Oh, Los Angeles.
California.
Okay.
Los Angeles, of course, California. So he was a Postmates delivery driver, which February was I guess the West Coast of the United States was already kicking into COVID mode, but it wasn't crazy yet. But he was a Postmates delivery driver, and he apparently had like such bad genitalia, like scarring and like deformations on his body. I mean, it was apparently like really bad. He had to get all these like surgeries and stuff. Now, of course, his lawyers and whatever could have been overplaying that. But I'm sure for court they had to have all the documents and stuff like that. But he was awarded $50 million, and they allege that the Starbucks worker didn't properly wedge the drink in the little tray thing, and it fell, and it like it was through the drive-through window. So, what are your guys' thoughts? Because I totally, when I heard this, I was like, fuck that guy. That's ridiculous. Like, stupid California, like liberal, whatever, all that stuff. And I still kind of think that, I'll be totally honest with you, but like, how do they prove that it wasn't? Producer Janine wants to see proof of his deformed genitalia. She just put that in the chat. Like, how do you prove that the Starbucks worker really truly didn't wedge it in there properly? Give me some thoughts, Greg.
Well, I'll tell you right now. First and foremost, a proper wedge is absolutely necessary. Hot beverage or cold beverage. I mean, come on, that thing serves one purpose, and it's to have drinks wedged into it, right? And if you can't do that, if you're too limp-wristed working at Starbucks to put the freaking drink in there with a little bit of force, then get on out, dude. You don't belong working there. So hot beverage or cold beverage, whatever. But yeah, if you don't wedge that properly and then you pass it to me through the window and it drops out of there, and yeah, my chest, my face, my hands, but heaven forbid my junk gets burned by that, dude. If I can't get bricked up anymore because of your incompetence as a Starbucks employee, if your level of excellence is in fact so low that you can't handle the window at a Starbucks, bro, you just quit working entirely. Like, I don't know what is for you, okay? But it's definitely not that. Yeah. If I lose function down there, or at least have some hideous scarring that nobody wants to look at that anymore, not that they really want to look at it to begin with, but yeah, dude, 50 million's the least you could do.
Really,
to help me out.
I'm on the opposite side of this.
Yeah, well, you get some hot tea spilled on your junk.
I guess my thing is, how do you prove that it wasn't wedged in there properly?
Well, not only that, like the onus of when it's culpatory, like someone's handing you something at a window in your vehicle, two hands. So like you're each 50% responsible for the transition of the bag, right? So look at the Starbucks workers, dude. I mean, they look like Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons on a soy diet. I mean, I just, you can't expect those guys to wedge anything. They could probably barely lift up the drink. But also, like, where's this going to head with litigation? Once all the homeless people find out about this, dude, and they wheel their bike through the Starbucks drive-through. Oh, dude, it's over, right, Sean?
Okay, well, but then, all right, let's take the drink carrier out of the mix for a second, even though that's probably central to this case. How many times have you guys gone through a Dunkin' or a Starbucks window and go to grab the thing, and they haven't secured the lid properly?
All the time.
All the time, dude.
I honestly don't know. I can't even remember if I ever have.
But how about you got to get burned for your shit not to work? Because I mean, Viagra will work. I mean,
yeah, but should you have to be resigned to the blue pill for the rest of your life?
I think anyone could say this though, like, oh yeah, my dick doesn't work now. You know, da 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 da.
So
yeah,
give me $50 million.
I would assume he had to provide like the medical documents and records.
Well, here's a video of me and my wife, and shit.
Yeah. No, it'd be like
undergo skin grafts and other procedures on his genitalia.
That sounds horrific.
I listen. I'll be the first. Like, if there was
$50 million though, dude, dump that shit all over me, bro.
If there was a way to prove that it truly was the worker, and that like you just didn't like grab, like maybe he tried to grab it with one hand and he was on his phone or looking at his, you know what I mean, like. I don't know. That's So
Why do you have the
but if
drink in
it's a
proximity of your
carrier-
junk? You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
he's
Just for sure-
pulling it
wait.
over him. He's
Uh-oh.
sitting
Hold
in
on.
there. He's sitting in there.
producer Janine has chimed in. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I am
Janine.
chiming in here. It's not about the employee, it's about the temperature of
There you
what's
go.
spilt. So if their machine was improperly
Calibrated.
calibrated correct, then it's really not the employee's fault either way. It's negligence on the machine.
So
How do you
are we
prove
saying that
that?
it shouldn't have been hot enough to skin graft him and all that? Is that what
Correct.
we're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
that's a good point.
Now, is that a real thing or is that just an opinion? Like, is that how
No,
it's
but
supposed to be?
That's
Well, I'm
in my
sure that's something that got brought up in court.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Like,
I'm
there's
sure.
a certain temperature where it's hot enough to drink, but like it wouldn't be if you spill it.
What's
Is
that?
that-
The international temperature law? I mean,
Hey,
Well,
listen.
because
Hey, there's metrics to all
ideally-
this, bro.
Right. And ideally, back in, like you see in the chat here, I was talking about the lady that sued McDonald's for
I remember
hot
that,
coffee
yeah.
spilt on her years ago. She said she had, 3rd-degree burns or whatnot. The temperature's not to, because of that, I think the temperature was regulated in different fast food places.
but do
Don't
you guys
quote me on
think
that.
like he got more because it was his wiener? Like, is this
Stella
a sexist
out.
thing? What, like,
Tell it out. So
is a wiener
so
injury worth more than a thigh injury?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
probably yeah. I
Sorry,
think probably
ladies.
more valuable body part.
There
So
go
they-
our lady
Starbucks-
viewership again. Yeah.
Listen, we built this country. We built the roads. We built the foundation.
There goes
that
our last
Starbucks
female
was
listener.
built on.
rock
The
and
least you can
roll.
do is protect my junk. Okay.
Well,
We built this
Last
city.
2 female listeners we had, it was nice knowing you guys, and we appreciate you here.
We built this city.
No, nothing but love to the ladies for sure. And like, I would feel the same way if it got spilt on my girlfriend,
Oh,
any one of anybody. You know what I'm saying? I'd feel the same way. Like, that'd be absolutely horrific. Skin grafts on your genitalia. That sounds terrible.
That does sound terrible. I gotta be
Would
honest.
you-
It does
would
sound
you-
terrible.
Would you do it though for 50 mil?
For 50 million?
Ooh.
Come on.
They probably
baby.
got enough
You know I
plastic surgery
would.
nowadays that you could get
Do
You
some
could get
low
like
down
a-
dirty stuff for 50 million.
you could get like a
functionality
12-inch dong
comes back,
rebuilt.
but there's a nasty scar on that thing. Are you doing it?
Yes.
Functionality comes back, full function.
They're already veiny.
100%.
There you go. Well, there you go.
There's probably enough plastic surgery where you can just get it built back
Better.
better. You know what I mean? Just like Joe Biden said, built back better.
Oh, Joe, get a Biden wiener.
The head is
no.
Biden's face.
Oh God.
Hopefully, he's not your plastic surgeon. You'll fucking have a vagina by the time you're off that table.
So they tried to settle for $3 million and he said no. And then they came back with $30 million and he
Attaboy.
still said no. And they said he got 50.
Yes.
30
I
million.
love
He
that.
said no.
I
That guy's
love
got,
that.
That guy's got liquid balls of steel, dude.
Dude,
Yeah.
Because if they went from 3 to 30, they knew they were losing. That's what it is. If they went
said
from
no.
3 to 30, and he was like,
And his lawyer
He's
said,
like,
dude, take
"Keep
this
going."
thing to trial. Let's go.
"That's awesome."
So, anyways, that was just a fun little story. I knew that would produce a lively conversation.
Yep.
All right, you guys ready to do this? Get into some dire wolf stuff.
Not to mention, guys, the real winner in that story is his lawyer made 40% of that. So
Hell
lawyer
yeah.
makes $20 million off this guy burning his stuff in the drive-through line. That's crazy.
Absolutely.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So from dire straits to dire wolves.
Dire straits to dire wolf. We do know how to transition people. Greg, what do you want to do? Do you want to go first, or do you have anything prepared, or do you want me just to read what,
fire it in.
read
I've
what I
got,
have?
yeah.
All right, I'll read what I have, and maybe what I'll do is I'll stop in a couple key points because I found some.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's just.
I found some stuff like quotes from the scientists that were involved in this, and also scientists that weren't, that are kind of on the other side of like, hey, this might be a dangerous territory. So,
Yep.
All right. So all my stuff. First off, thanks for the wiener, the burn wiener guy. That was courtesy of Fox News in Seattle and NBC News in California. Just to cite my sources. This is from Time Magazine and from BBC America, all the information I got for the dire wolf stuff. The dire wolf is an extinct species of canine that once roamed North America during the, I'm going to get this wrong, Pleistocene ice ages. It's also known
close.
as a word I can't pronounce its scientific name. Here's what we know about this fascinating creature. Physical characteristics: larger than gray wolves, with some specimens being up to 25% bigger. So like some of them get up to like 6 feet and 150 pounds, which is humongous. They have a wider head, thicker, lighter colored fur, stronger jaw. They're hyper carnivorous diet, eating 70% plus meat from horses and bison. They went extinct about 13,000 years ago. Here's where we get into the good stuff. About 13,000 years ago, they went extinct at the end of the last ice age. So de-extinction efforts. Colossal Biosciences, which is a biotech company, has successfully brought back the dire wolf through genetic engineering. There's 3 of them, and they are have the names right here on it. It's Romulus. There's a baby that they just cloned.
One's the chick from Game of Thrones.
Well, that's what I want to get into,
Khaleesi.
and I want to get into that. Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi are the 3. Romulus and Remus are like a few years old now, and Khaleesi is like a 2-month-old little baby wolf.
Mm-hmm.
They use DNA.
The boys are 6 months old.
6 months old. Sorry about that. Yeah. But they're already pretty big, though, apparently, from what I understand. They use DNA from 13,000-year-old and 72,000 year old fossils to edit the genome of gray wolves, the closest living relative of the dire wolf. The team made 20 precise edits to the genome, resulting in the birth of 3 dire wolf pups: Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi. So let me stop there for a minute. And Janine, she just chimed in the chat. If you want to put more in the chat about what you mean, go ahead, or pop in verbally if you want to. Let's stop there.
So putting on my art history hat, because I did used to teach art history. So Romulus and Remus were twins. They were brothers, and they were the founders of Rome, and they were suckled by a wolf.
Oh, so wow.
That's the
little ominous
background of that. Yeah. Anyway, cool. Just had to chime that in there.
So those names are very much on purpose then.
Correct.
And one's a dragon lady that took it.
Janine, if you have time, look up what the word Khaleesi means. If it means
I'm pretty
anything.
sure that was just invented for Game of Thrones.
Let me check it out.
But it translates into the mother of dragons.
Khaleesi does?
Yeah. Well, within the Game of Thrones universe, and the whole thing about this with the whole dire wolves thing is because they were very much popularized in the show. They're like they're the sigil of one of the main families in the show, and like the kids have dire. Each kid has its own dire wolf.
Nice word.
I saw a note of that. So that's why that they're like so kind of popular in pop culture today. Yes, because they were.
Yeah. And actually, George R.R. Martin is a very much the author of those books is very much involved in the funding of some of these projects with Colossal.
Nice. So yeah, it says it right here. I guess George R. Martin had a book series called Song of Ice and Fire, and then the HBO adaptation Game of Thrones. The company's achievement has sparked excitement and debate about the possibilities of de-extinction and its potential applications in conservation efforts. So essentially, there's like another dozen animals that are extinct that they're starting to talk about bringing back.
I think they're
the woolly mammoth is what spawned all this. All right,
I have a note about that.
Yeah. The woolly mammoth. They're saying
2028.
They're saying 2028, yeah, and the whole idea behind that is that they want to help certain species of Asian elephants right now that are going extinct, right? So that they could.
What's going to be the excuse to bring the T-Rex back?
Well,
that's what I want to know. Where's that fucking guy with the cane and the hat on the island?
Spared no expense.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, where's that guy?
Where's Jeff Goldblum when you need him?
Yeah,
dude.
We need to bring the fucking T-Rex back.
They also said, the woolly mammoth, the dodo bird, which I'm not sure why, the Tasmanian tiger.
Huh? Damn. The dodo bird are scary looking, man, for real. Like, I would not want to run into that weird, crazy bird.
The Tasmanian tiger, and then I've never heard of this one, the thylacine, Thylacine.
That is the tiger.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Tasman. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Cool. It says already in March, the company surprised the science community with the news that it had copied the woolly mammoth DNA to create a woolly moose, a chimeric critter with the long golden coat and the accelerated fat metabolism of the mammoth. So kind of like another version of the mammoth. And a spokesperson from Colossal's bioscience, a lady named Beth Shapiro, chief science officer, speaking on humanity as a whole. We are deciding what the future of these species will be. The Center for Biological Diversity suggests that 30% of the planet's genetic diversity will be lost by 2050, which, if you really take a second to think about that, like that's a shit ton, right? That's a lot.
Yeah.
And Shapiro and Colossal CEO Ben Lamb insist that genetic engineering is vital to reverse this. Company executives often frame the technology not just as a moral good, but as a moral imperative, basically a way for humans who have driven so many species to the brink of extinction to get square with nature. That's a quote. If we want a future that is both bionumerous and filled with people, Shapiro says, we should be giving ourselves the opportunity to see what our big brains can do to reverse some of the bad things that we've done to this world already. I'm going to stop there because I think this is a moral, you know what I mean? Like a philosophical conversation.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about this?
Well,
I think
I would like
that,
to say, go ahead, Bill.
I personally believe that this is ties into a past episode that we have, because you're opening Pandora's box here, because this is just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg. So what happens in, I don't know, 100 years when computers are so advanced inside of somebody's house that they can easily modify genes themselves? Gene editing and things like that. I mean, it can get very slippery. And I'm talking about when people want to go ahead and try to create a super race, or super whatever, like try to make these hybrid super animals, et cetera. But I think the most concerning would be humanoid editing, things like that, where I think it can get really out of control really quick and probably inevitable at this point.
Greg?
Well, I do have a piece on that for sure. I think there's a lot of questions that we would have to ask with this. One of the things that I think it's important to note before we kind of get into terribly much into this is what exactly they're doing, right? And it's going to be hard for the standard layman to I spent several days looking into some of this different stuff, and I like to consider myself an intelligent human, but this stuff it's all next level, right? I'm studying different genomes and breaking down the genetics and everything like that. But essentially what they did is they this guy George Church and his genetics team used CRISPR to copy mammoth genes into the genome of an Asian elephant in 2015, right? So what CRISPR is a gene editing. It's a genetic engineering technique in molecular biology by which the genomes of living organisms may be modified. It is based on a simplified version of the bacterial CRISPR-Cas9 antiviral defense system. And there's a lot of other big words in there too. But essentially what they are doing is the plot of Jurassic Park, right? They are going into, they're extracting pieces of gene sequencing from fossils of extinct animals and using them in combination with existing animals of either the same family or the same similar type of animals in order to produce these. They're very quick to say that they are not clones, that cloning really isn't, in the successful cloning anyways, is not possible yet, right? But that's why these aren't really being called true dire wolves. I mean, everybody in the media is calling them dire wolves, but really the scientific community, all of this information is out being studied by the scientific community right now, where they can then report their findings back on what this is. But what they're saying is that these dire wolves are about 99.5% dire wolf, right? But it's going to be like an asterisk with it, right? So these are the colossal dire wolves or whatever they want to call them.
So I have a quick question. Let me pause there. What, besides just wanting to bring him back, and like, what is the purpose? Like, what purpose are they serving that we weren't having served?
Right. So, their website is actually like one of the cooler websites I've ever looked at. Like, just visually, it's very, very advanced, and whoever put that together did a nice job. But it's got a lot of information on it. And here's what they're saying, right? They're saying that, so far that we know of, right, there's been 5 extinction level events throughout the course of time on planet Earth, right? And that we are heading towards a 6th extinction level event, and that is going to be the first one caused by human interaction, right? That we are causing the extinction of entire groups of animals,
because we're like polluting the earth and that
yes,
kind of
exactly
stuff?
because we're being humans, and we all know, and it's no big surprise,
Using up the resources,
the way that we waste, the way that we use up resources, the way that we get rid of our trash, or don't, for that matter. It's well known that we, just industry alone has been destroying the planet for quite some time, right? So just some facts that they have listed on their website, right? According to leading scientists, 30,000 species per year on average are being driven to extinction. That's 6 per hour, 150 per day, 55,000 per year.
Wow.
The World Animal Foundation predicts that up to 50% of all species will become extinct by 2050. In total, 36% of the terrestrial species declined, and this is since the rate of extinction since 2021 is 10,000 times faster because of human activity. And during that time, terrestrial species declined by 36%. 81% of freshwater species have disappeared, and 36% of marine species have vanished, right? 1 million animal and plant species are threatened with extinction. According to the International Union for Conservation of Nature, they estimate that 38% of all species are on the verge of extinction today. 50% of all primate species are at risk of extinction, and 68% of plant species studied by that organization are on the brink of extinction. Experts at Earth.org summarize the current loss of species as a mass extinction event that is actively underway, only the 6th in the last 500 million years. They estimate that 50% of the world's original forests have disappeared at a rate 10 times higher than possible regrowth. 40% of the Earth's land is consumed by human food production, up from 7% in the 1700s. 50% of Earth's total land mass has been transformed for human use. CO2 concentrations in the atmosphere are higher than any time in the last 650,000 years. So, and the list goes on and on and on. It is what we always talk about, like our carbon footprint, what we are doing to this planet, and is it for better or for worse? Obviously, our species is thriving, right? But at the risk of what, so it is interesting, because I had all those same, and I still have those same concerns that Bill was talking about. I think any rational human would, but we also have to look at this other side, which is like, yes, did the T-Rex go extinct, and all the dinosaurs go extinct because of an extinction level event? Sure. Were we around back then? No, or certainly not as we are nowadays, for sure. But what are we doing? Are we becoming the cause of this problem?
Well, that's what, let me, for just a minute, that's where my mind like initially goes is, I'm gonna broad view here, just macro view for a second. If nothing happens in God's world by mistake, and I know I know we can get into the tragedies and shit that happens. I'm not, but like if everything is happening for, and all that stuff, and God is all powerful and omnipotent, then I think you could argue that like God foresaw these extinctions, right? He foresaw humans not treating the world, all that stuff, and maybe like so. And then if we're now trying to kind of reverse that or essentially manipulate nature versus science to bring that stuff back, like the argument sounds okay. Like, hey, if we want a life in a future with animals and humans, we got to start doing this, and we have this technology and this intelligence. Let's use it. But are we not possibly like, screwing up the space-time continuum, so to speak, to use a phrase from Back to the Future? Are we not kind of like totally just trying to put our fingers in this as human beings even further, and therefore kind of screwing up the natural course of events and the natural evolution of maybe this is exactly the way that it's supposed to happen? That's where that's
Right.
the macro view.
Right. Or we could be destroying the resources that feed us, that not only feed us but keep our planet going. We are still a fragile ecosystem, even though we're thriving and we've got a lot of stuff figured out and we live in a very advanced society. We're still part of a very fragile ecosystem that we're only a part of, a fraction of. We're
Right.
And so if we are doing it, do I think that we need T-Rexes running around? No. No, I don't.
No, but let me just say too, though, that so that data you were reading is from their website, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, that's their sales pitch too. You know what I mean? You can't quantify how many species are. There's no metric to determine. Most species are invertebrates.
Well, those are.
I mean,
those
you can't really
from
I could go into a
different
pond
sources.
and name like start naming new species right now. You know what I mean? So how many species are there? There's correlating information. There's data gaps there that can't really be filled. That's all.
Okay,
I'm saying.
so I understand what you're saying, but if it's the difference is okay, well we're at risk of driving extinct 50%, or maybe it's like 30%. Is that
for sure?
Is that
Well,
better or
I'm
worse?
a fan of conservative. Like conserve the land, make a reason for this land to be this land for this. And there's a smarter way to do things, than how they're done, and especially in countries that don't participate in any regulation. You know what I mean?
Right.
So by stuffing some woolly mammoths on the earth and dire wolves, they're not going to fix any of that shit. You know what I mean? But the problem is much bigger than that. But it's also maybe we're looking at it wrong. I think that conservatorship of the land mass is probably the most important thing to a degree in which maybe it needs to all be hashed out and remapped. I don't know. I don't know how you really solve it.
That's another side. You're saying that's another side to look at it. Yeah.
And I agree with that. The only issue I have with it is the human problem of it, right? Because in order to and hey, I get it. Like, I'm guilty of it too. Like, my girlfriend still yells at me to like rinse out the stuff I'm getting ready to recycle,
Here's the thing though, Greg. Number one, if we think that a country like, I don't know, Taiwan is going to participate with first class America being like, you guys really need to shut these plants down at this hour. Like, they're trying to get ahead. They're not going to listen to us. Number one. Number two,
right.
There's a lot. We could get a whole episode about recycling and how that's basically been proven as bullshit as well.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is when you're asking the human race to help correct the problem, inherently you have the problem of the human race, and what they want to do, what they feel like doing, what they feel like sacrificing. Do any of these companies, American or not, want to sacrifice profits over
Well, we as individuals are like, I'm going to put it in the blue bin this week and I feel good about it. And it's like, it's really kind of incapacitating my mind to a better idea. You know what I mean? Because it's not really working. It's kind of like it's a moral trick in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, some of this stuff, I don't know, we're getting off topic here, but you know what I mean?
Well, hold on.
Another way to look at it.
No, I think
hold on. I want to tug on that for a second. What do you mean? Like, so are you saying then, Bill, we shouldn't be trying to bring these animals back, when we're looking at, we're not like that's we're spending our time and resources not in the right way.
I would love to see them back because I want to see them on the earth and exist because they're beautiful animals. You know what I mean? I'd love to see all these animals come back that we could. I just I get a little ugh, whenever I hear some of these, like it's a private company, you know, and they're citing
Yeah.
certain things that
Right.
seem very manipulated, and then maybe it just gives me some PTSD to some other things that are known, like in my own mind, about how like the whole climate thing is a bigger conversation of like how we really could solve something like that.
Sure.
And I don't think that the way that it's currently looked at is the way to do it. You know what I mean? And the problem is, guys, to me is most countries aren't going to participate in that kind of thing, and I don't blame them because they don't, and they pollute more than anybody, you know. So if we're sitting here like, oh, I separated my recycling, like yeah, okay, but like, you know, the mob runs the recycling bin down the street and fucking makes money off of it. We're not really doing anything but like satisfying our morals for the week. That it's not doing anything.
Well,
That's my
yes, and I get what you're saying there. I really do. But like on the flip side of that, then that's the argument of like, well, why should I do the right thing if nobody else is going to do it?
because it's not really right. There's nothing to it. It's all fucking fluff. You know what I mean? It's
Maybe the recycling specifically, but I don't know if any of us are expert enough to know exactly what stuff in our like
right. Which is
current.
why I don't really want to get into it because I
No,
couldn't tell
I
you
think we
exactly
should
what
get
it
into
is.
It's a great conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's a fascinating conversation. I think, Bill, something you hit on, conservatorship, that word specifically, and that I think that stems more, like you said, from the land and the resources and taking care of the natural resources and using them in the quote unquote proper way, rather than just these private companies that are obviously for profit companies, and they're going to, you know. So do we need to bring back the animals? Well, I think, in as to Greg's point, in the larger ecosystem of things, some of these animals, and that's what I would be want to know more about, is like, what are these dire wolves, what is their purpose going to serve in the larger
But
ecosystem?
also, Sean, let me just interject for
Right.
1 second. On a local scale, right? This is a great example to go along with what you guys are saying is the golf course. They were going to take down Jonathan Dickinson Park, right? And I happen to be privy to some of this information because of the industry that I'm in.
Right.
So basically, a bunch of rich upper crust people got together, and they made negotiations with towns and things like that to take preserve area and then build on those preserve areas, which were like perfect properties right by the water, these beautiful properties. And they were going to reallocate preserves. Like for every 1 square mile we take, we're going to put 2 square miles. Are they saying they're probably going to put it like somewhere non-important to where that needs to be?
Correct.
You know what I mean? So it's all like a manipulate. You know what I mean? Like it's a trick, really, right?
And for the record, the community spoke up about
and
that
and that's what I was going with.
And as an avid golfer, I was totally against that, because we have enough golf courses. Let's keep our natural scrub areas and our wildlife and all that stuff. That's a home to,
and
God
we
knows
would
how many
gain in
species.
that in money too, because you know it brings money to the area. But still, same thing. Yes, the people got together and we're able to overcome that and get that canceled. But that's a tragedy. You know what I mean? Those kind of things and how that's manipulated.
Yeah, let me read off a couple more things, because I have some info and quotes from people that are against the bringing back the wolves and stuff like that. But let me just read off a couple of things. The dire wolf once roamed a territory that extended as far south as Venezuela and as far north as Canada. But not a single one has been seen in over 10,000 years. When the species went extinct, plenty of dire wolf remains have been discovered across the Americas, however, and that presented an opportunity for, you know, a company like Colossal Biosciences to start doing what they're doing. Relying on deft genetic engineering and ancient preserved DNA, Colossal scientists deciphered the dire wolf genome, rewrote the genetic code, which is wild to me that we can do that. They rewrote the genetic code of the common gray wolf to match it, and then using domestic dogs as surrogate mothers, which, just saying that seems like evil almost, like, you know what I mean? Like these poor dogs, like, you know, brought Romulus, Remus, and their sister, 2-month-old Khaleesi, into the world during 3 separate births last fall and this winter, effectively de-extincting a line of beasts whose live gene pool long ago vanished. Time magazine met with the 2 males. Khaleesi was too young, as long as they kept the location and everything completely separate. Here's something really cool. They were observed to be doing what puppies do, right? Chasing, tussling, nipping at each other, like playing with each other. But as far as their interactions with humans, very standoffish, very skittish. And the note here says,
like a wolf,
that
nothing like a dog.
It specifically says, this isn't domesticated canine behavior. This is wild lupine behavior. The pups are wolves. Not only that, they are dire wolves, which means they have cause to be lonely and just very skittish of humans, which that part is kind of amazing, right? That
were dire wolves not like pack?
No,
they are pack, but they're lone pack. They didn't associate with like any other animals from what I read.
Like and they don't. Oh, okay. They don't integrate with other packs or anything.
Right.
They just like we're out here, life or death. Got it.
They're true. Like they're almost like the lions of their time, right?
Nice.
They everything else is beneath them in the food chain.
Right.
Yeah, throw some of those in Montana. Let's see what happens.
What was the one I had here? One of the guys, Robert Klitzman, a professor of psychiatry and director of bioethics master's program at Columbia University, says there's a risk of death. There's a risk of side effects that are severe. There's a lot of suffering involved. There's going to be miscarriages. And he said that we just don't know, kind of what I was saying, like what this means for the natural evolution of how this stuff is supposed to go, if you believe that, right? If you believe that it's already on its course and that's the way it's supposed to go, is this totally just throwing a wrench into that? Which I thought.
Do you think this is playing God,
part.
Sean, or what?
What's that?
Do you think this is playing God? Because I mean,
that's kind of, yes, that's a very simplified way of kind of what I was getting at. Like, I don't know. That's where my mind goes to it. And then I also go to, well, God gave us brains to use, and he supplied this world with many good doctors and psychiatrists. I would be concerned with who's regulating these companies. Like I know the FDA, the EPA, US. I was reading up on it. Like the Environmental Protection Agency has a big role to play in all this stuff, and the EPA and the Food and Drug. I mean, there's plenty of federal agencies, and I'm sure state agencies and whatever, and private. But like, at this point, when we're talking about all this money, I mean, you guys know how that stuff goes, man. Like people's pockets get lined, and stuff gets passed into law or passed into whatever.
How is this not in one way or another? In 100 years, some dude in Pakistan in his bedroom is able to like fucking create T-Rexes. I don't understand. Because I mean, it's just gonna get out of control, bro. Like humans can't handle this kind of shit. I mean, we can barely handle fucking guns and other things.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. We can't even figure out how to be nice to one another. And
we can't even watch sporting events without like jumping,
setting cities on fire.
Yeah, it's like.
I was going to say, like, along with that point, like this is what they're saying, right? To counter that point, the Colossal and
the company
saying any new technologies carry some risk of unintended consequences. Biotechnologies are not unique in this way. For each of our de-extinct species, we are working with partners to evaluate these risks and develop detailed plans for both expected outcomes and for how to mobilize if something unanticipated occurs. Importantly, we have to remember that there is a tremendous risk in being too scared of these tools to explore what benefits they can bring. Doing nothing is also a decision with consequence, and that consequence is what we will continue to lose the battle against extinction. So, I mean, there's just that flip side of the coin. I'm not saying the guy's right or wrong, and of course he's going to say that about his own company, but
that's the Jurassic Park part right there.
Well, but I would agree with that. And
no, I do too. But
I don't know if I trust any of these people to safeguard this stuff properly. That's the thing.
For sure. Right. Yeah.
So here's
written.
Here's another thing. But not everyone agrees. Scientific history is rife with examples of newly introduced species becoming invasive species. The doctrine of unintended consequences biting humans when we played too cute with our animals, aka when we played God. An exotic pet escapes and multiplies, disseminating native species. A toad brought in to kill off beetles ends up killing off the
Right.
marsupials that eat the toads. And
Those are
genetic
the ones that
engineering.
the problem, like the small, fastly replicating animals and
Yep.
things like that. That could be like a big problem real quick.
And they're saying that genetic engineering is still a relatively unknown field. Genetic engineering, excuse me, is still a relatively unknown field.
Let alone that, Sean. Like, let's be real here. I mean, when I moved to Florida, because transportation of animals wasn't the way it was until more recently with knowledge and things and the way people sell these animals. I mean, it was all these little lizards in Florida when I moved here, right?
Yeah.
Now it's all these long, like, what are they like? They're like
The
Cuban,
black and orange ones.
black and orange,
Yeah.
like crazy looking fucking things, and iguanas down south, all like iguanas everywhere because they're not native to here. And there's some fish and algae like that too that are very like invasive.
Yeah.
But that's just from the age of transportation, let alone the age of like, let's bring back some. And what about when you start using it as like a bioweapon against another country? Here, I'll put this fucking bug into your stock, in your food
Your
supply.
crops.
Yeah, like boom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's wild. Listen, I got to be honest. When we decided to do this last Tuesday, I was like, this, what the are we getting ourselves? What is this? And the more I read and the more I looked into it, it is fascinating and it produces.
I think the article had come out that day too, so it worked out well. So
I have so many more questions now than I did in the beginning, and just like that stem off from so many things. Here's the last quote I'll say, because I thought this was really kind of a telling quote and very interesting. A guy named Matt James, who's Colossal Biosciences chief animal officer. He said a bunch of stuff, but this is what he says. For me, James says, talking about the dire wolves, it was sort of a shocking, chilling moment. These pups were the first to produce a howl that hadn't been heard on Earth in over 10,000 years. Like, that's
goosebumps from that one.
That's sick, dude. One way or the other. That's that's crazy stuff right there. So
I got a quote for you.
Do you smell what the Rock is cooking?
Well, that one was for a little bit later, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they did not stop to think if they should. That was Dr. Ian Malcolm, aka the great Jeff Goldblum, national treasure.
Yes.
But with that,
Greg,
those are my I guess rhetorical questions to you guys, to anybody that's listening, and just some stuff that I thought of like while I was researching all this stuff is, number one, do we release these animals into the wild? Like, how long are we just breeding them? Or I wouldn't even say breeding them, because they're not bred, they're genetically created, right? Are we doing that just to have them in captivity in a conservatory to study them for their entire lives? And if so, then what is their quality of life, right? Because we all know, like, depending on what zoo you go to, some of those animals are not treated very well, right? And there's whole groups of people that are lined up picketing at the zoos for that kind of stuff.
Plus, if you release them, their habitat might not be what they had back then.
They might not survive.
They might not survive. And then if we do release them and they're predatory, like a dire wolf is, what does this mean for the overall population of animals? Those same animals that
here's the thing, Greg. When you
going into extinction,
50 million for your wiener getting burnt, I want 150 million when a fucking dire wolf bites me. Bio, whatever your fucking name is. I'm coming for your I'm coming for everything.
They're coming for Roy's Shih Tzu farm that he wants. I think you might have missed that part, Bill, before you hopped on pre-show. Janine's husband, Roy, wants to retire and have a Shih Tzu farm. They're coming for the Shih Tzus, Roy.
Dude, the
genetically engineered Shih Tzus.
Everybody.
But yeah, and then that was the big question that I had too, kind of like in line with what Bill was saying, right? And certainly in line with, we just did an episode not too long ago on biohacking, right? And this is some of the stuff that we're kind of getting into in this next level stuff is, at what point do we start genetically modifying ourselves? And then at what point then does it get into the slippery slope? Look, without hopefully offending too many people, at the end of the day, I really don't give a shit. But like, we're already living in an age where you can be anything you say you are, right? Regardless of what the
You can
science
claim
or
to be,
anything,
let's say that.
you know, and if anybody questions it, they're in the wrong, right? So we're already kind of operating under that certain, whatever you want to call it. Some of us call it delusion, whatever. But if we're already operating under that, and then the presumption is then you can even further that with, you know, some kind of genetic engineering to yourself, or what if a couple parents decide that, oh, well, I want my child to be born with blue eyes and blonde hair, kind of like what Bill was saying, like
Okay.
you're engineering.
What about?
you know,
Yeah,
the-
but let me ask you guys real quick though. Like, 10 years they say you can morph into any animal. What you guys going with your 50-50 blend? Let me hear it. I'm going eagle. What do you guys got?
Yeah, I'm going some kind of hawk or eagle.
Eagle would be fucking
For
badass.
sure.
I'd be flying around.
I
this
just want to
place.
fly. That's it. Yeah.
no, give me a fucking tiger or a lion all
Oh,
day
okay.
long.
And Greg, one more question, Greg. What happened to your boy last night, or Stone Cold? What happened?
Stone Cold was having a ball, dude.
He wrecked. Was that intentional? What was
Well,
that?
I mean, they gave a drunk 60-year-old redneck,
Was that
one of the
scripted or was that
baddest men on the
real?
planet, an ATV to ride around inside an arena with 60,000 people. What did you think was going to happen?
Was it scripted or real though?
No, it was real. He ran right into the side of the ramp, dude.
Did you see that, Sean?
No, I didn't see it.
Stone Cold.
But
got
guess what?
drunk.
Here he is. He's right on this shirt here.
I love the
And he's
motherfucker.
allowed because
dude.
he's Stone Cold Steve Austin. What?
Yep. He played
Well,
it off well too. He was just like, "Yep,
he did.
all right."
I think that is a perfect segue into the end of this show. But, however, I will say, check out our YouTube channel, Trudge Report Podcast YouTube channel, because Greg and Corey kept their word and they got on there and they did. They gave you about an hour's worth of WWE wrestling content. So if you are
Free content,
as insane
too.
as they
Free.
are,
And let me just say the big swerve, the big turn, I called it verbatim. Thank you very much.
he thanks you very much, everybody. But check out the YouTube channel. We also did some NBA playoff preview stuff on our YouTube channel. We'll come
Looking
back
good,
again
baby.
after the first round. Yeah, Cavs look good so far, Greg.
The Warriors looked great last night. That
Warriors
was
looked great last night, man. It was fun.
Big upset.
It
The
was.
Thunder
They're coming for you,
look
Bill. Whether you like them or not.
outrageous. The
Whether you like 'em or
Oklahoma
not.
City.
I'm just gonna
Thunder.
get on there and talk shit one of these nights.
That's
so
fine. Let's do it.
fine.
Come
Do
on,
it.
content. So, with that being said, thank you to everybody. Guys, great job tonight. That was fascinating. Shout out to our listeners. Please like, follow, and share on all socials at Trudge Report Pod. Email us, trudgereportpod@yahoo.com. Send in your mailbag requests for topics, questions, and comments to any of these handles. Remember, we are all here if anyone wants to talk about recovery and our experiences, or if you are struggling with some form of addiction. Thank you again to Janine and Stella Mix Podcast Management. I say good day, good night, God bless, and may you trudge the road of happy destiny. Cheers.
You each get $1 million if I get bit by a dire wolf.
See ya.
Wolfpack, baby.